Hi, friends, and welcome to an ambush that Victoria has no idea what we're about to film.
Yeah.
It is 5:13 on the 25th of April right now. We are going to see Avengers Endgame tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And so I thought we would do, which I don't know whether this will be a one-off video or somehow I can turn this into a series, before and after. So, before, we have not seen the movie yet. We have successfully avoided spoilers, other than small things like in toy releases, maybe, Lego releases, things that I don't really feel are spoilers necessarily. I have knowledge of the comics. Victoria does not have much knowledge of the comics. So I thought the way we would do this is we're going to talk about what our expectations are, what we think may happen, both good and bad, and then after the movie we'll finish it and talk about what actually happened and see how we feel. So before and after, which, we could do a before and after on the Golden Corral that you want to eat before we go to the movie.
No.
And then the after would be that you miss...
The after's private.
Diarrhea.
Yeah.
So, before we see the movie, so obviously we've talked a lot about this, how we think that the reason this movie's resonating, at least with me, and I don't know if Victoria agrees with this, more than movies typically do, is, I know it's talked a lot, but because it's been 10 years and all these hours that we spent with these characters, but for me it makes it more like a television show, which I enjoy more. I enjoy television more than movies, and so this is like a series finale to a show that you've loved for 10 seasons. That's the way it feels to me, and I'm always excited. We're in the middle of the Game of Thrones final season, so we're always excited about that. So I think I have a lot more invested into these characters than normal, especially the normal comic book characters, because nothing's ever permanent in comic book world and has not been permanent on the movie screen because actors just get recast and we continue on telling the same stories or similar stories over and over again. So to start with, what do you think are you expecting that's going to happen from a permanent structure? What do you think is going to happen in this movie that does have some finality or some conclusions to it, just like in series finales, where you have big deaths or you have closure? What do you think is closure tonight?
I think there's got to be some kind of closure with the original Avengers. I don't know what that means, but I know that some of them, I think, have officially said they're not coming back. Some of them are still kind of up in the air. And I think they're ushering in more of kind of the younger or the newer Avengers that we haven't seen as much of. So I think there's got to be some closure with the original ones like Cap, Tony Stark, Thor, Hulk. Like, there's got to be something.
Yeah, I think I saw today the original 6 got on the Walk of Fame today.
Oh, I didn't
those
realize
actors
that.
were.
That's awesome.
I think that's what I saw. I think I saw a headline that said.
So what was that? It's Black Widow,
Hawkeye.
Yeah, those are
Black Widow,
ones.
Hawkeye, Hulk.
Uh-huh.
Are the tertiary,
Yeah.
and then the normal big 3.
Iron Man, Thor,
and it's because they've all 3 had a trilogy of their own movies.
Right. Well, because Black Widow, they may not. Well, but we never know for whatever upcoming movies. We don't know whether they're going to be prequels or what. So we don't really know what.
But the foundation, those 6 have been in 10 standalone titles, if you include Incredible Hulk. Then the 3 Avengers movies, so that's 13 across that group of folks. Not all of them and all of them carrying it. And then when you extend into Iron Man showing up in Homecoming, and Black Widow was in a lot of Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, Hulk and Thor being in the same, they're the emotional core.
Yeah.
And they're what this all was built on. If those first set of movies had not worked, we'd have never gotten here. We would have never met Vision or Black Panther or any Captain Marvel, none of them. We wouldn't have got this far. The only reason that Marvel can take a chance on Ant-Man or on Captain Marvel or on things that aren't as well known is because of how well those first 6 really did. So there does need to be closure. I think that's intentional why they're all alive. None of them died.
Yeah. I don't know what that's going to look like. I think there's probably going to be, I know that there's a lot of speculation there's going to be at least a big death of one of them, if not more.
Yeah, I think
that's going to be permanent.
I would think, in terms of this is all, again, this is not... So, when we come after, it's going to be spoiler. So don't watch it. I'll do a little spoiler dance tonight when we film it. But this is not spoilers right now.
speculation.
No idea, just
Yeah.
speculation. So I believe Captain America will die. I think he is the big death. Whether that looks like a death, traditionally, or whether that's he goes and has to replace Red Skull for the Soul Stone to get Gamora out, or something like that. I think he is the dyer. He's the person that would die. He's the hero.
Yeah.
I think there is gun to my head, because I think it's going to be surprising. I think it'll be less happens than we think we know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think gun to my head, if you said what's one pretty well defined moment that you think is going to happen, I would bet we will get a Captain America versus Thanos one-on-one fight for not 2 seconds, but for an extended period. There are elements from the comics that would allude to that I'm not going to talk about here, but I would think that will happen. We also had in one of the TV spots that scene of Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, the three of them walking toward what seems ominous. So maybe we're going to get the big three versus Thanos at some point. So, yeah, I think Cap dies, but Iron Man, Tony has always tried to sacrifice himself in every Avengers movie. That's always what he tries to do. So there's the other side of that he is the one that always tries to do that. But I would think that Robert Downey Jr. is the likely candidate to replace Stan Lee in the appearing once a movie for 2 seconds. He's also, in my opinion, more of the ambassador of the MCU than Chris Evans would be. Just because he seems to be everybody's mentor. Like, it was his birthday the other day, and everybody spoke so positively about him. So I think Iron Man's less likely to die. I do not think Thor dies. I do not think Black Widow or Hawkeye. I do not think that. I think if an original dies, it's Cap. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I love Cap, so I need to pack tissues. But yeah, it makes sense, and especially with some of the things we do know about upcoming projects, it makes the most sense, I would say. And then also, like, Iron Man's character for the story, it's good to keep him around also because he has all the tech, and, like, you can always have that as someone goes to Iron Man to get something, or someone goes to Tony and gets the new suits or whatever they need. Like, that's a good person to have, as the people can very easily write him in.
You always have Stark Industries around in the comics. Even if he is not the one being Iron Man, Tony Stark is around. So secondary character deaths, or maybe more specifically, characters that aren't revived. So I think there's a chance that you've got the deaths of Loki and Heimdall, and conceivably Gamora, that happened not from the snap, that have to live in a different world than the things that happen from the snap, however they undo the snap. The fact that there's a Loki project on the Disney Plus does not mean he gets resurrected. All of those could be prequels. Origin stories, whatever.
Especially with Loki. He was always just gone doing whatever.
Right, and Loki could have disguised himself as something else. I think Loki died in Infinity War, though. I do not think we're going to find out he's hidden. He's Hulk. There's that rumor out there. I don't think that's the case. So who would you say stays gone? And just of the ones we saw disappear on screen, not the ones we haven't talked about.
I don't like this, but I'm going to say Bucky. I just think so many of the other ones, there's so much left to do with them. Black Panther's coming back.
So we saw Panther, Bucky, Falcon.
Yeah.
Those are who died in Wakanda.
Scarlet
Witch. And then we have Peter. We obviously know Spider-Man's back. He has a movie in a month.
Yeah.
Then the Guardians. So you had Groot,
that's
Star-Lord,
Groot's
Drax,
coming back.
Mantis, Doctor Strange.
I wasn't thinking about it. Yeah, because I just kind of think Doctor Strange is definitely coming back, and
honestly, I'd be surprised if any of those stayed dead. More than I would if both Iron Man and Captain America died.
Yeah.
Because I don't. But they can do Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and it not be the same team, not be a complete team.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, I would imagine there was all this talk if James Gunn had not come back, that Batista was going to quit.
Yeah.
Well, they'd just leave him dead. Like, that's the way you write him out.
Yeah.
But I think that's changed. But, you know, Groot would be a fairly impactful thing to stay dead.
Groot has to come back.
So it's...
they have to sell merch. Groot's coming back.
You know, what could be interesting is Rocket dying. And the other Guardians coming back. Because Rocket was a big character in the last one, seems to be a big character in this one. War Machine's an interesting one we haven't talked about because that actor certainly is a big name actor and could walk away, and I think he's done. So he could be... I don't know that he carries the emotional resonance that some of the others do.
Yeah.
Because he's been on the opposite side, especially in Civil War and stuff. He was on the side we didn't necessarily love. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I think we may get Cap and Iron Man die. If there is big time stakes.
Yeah.
Because I don't like... We're going to get Professor Hulk, it seems like. That's what it seemed like all along. Like, so, if you don't know, I think it's Universal that owns the rights to the Hulk standalone movies, so Disney can't make them without using Universal. That's why we haven't had any other Hulk movies. And so what they basically did was write a movie for Hulk across... multiple movies.
Right.
So across Age of Ultron, where Scarlet Witch was mind controlling him and he destroyed the city and he was depressed about that, and so he left and he ended up, then he's in Ragnarok, and you've got where Hulk doesn't want to let Banner come back, and I think a lot of it is he's trying to protect Banner from being hurt.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, like with Black Widow or whatever the case may be, he doesn't want him to be like get emotional and be brokenhearted. And so then we go into Infinity War and Hulk won't come back. And, you know, the whole thing about Bruce saying that he doesn't think he can control this anymore and he may get stuck. And so now we're going to get kind of the finality of that story, which I think is obvious. I don't think this is a spoiler because it's talked about a lot that there's a time where he can become Hulk but still operate as Bruce Banner, like mentally. I think it's very obvious they've written the story that way because they make Hulk talk a lot, all of this stuff. And so I think what I would call Professor Hulk or something like that, I think we're going to get that.
It's like they integrate.
Kind of, yeah. I think we're going to get that in this movie, but I certainly don't, other than the fact that he has a quantum suit on, but that's not a spoiler. I would think we're going to get that, but that could make him vulnerable as well, because I could see him wanting to move on in his career also. And, I mean, they established early in Infinity War that Hulk was not a threat to Thanos. That Thanos just carelessly, without any... He only had one stone at that moment.
Yeah.
Just easily defeated Hulk. And so that was intentional.
Well, that's a good point, because then later on... Cap is able to at least
Cap catches
stop
up with
him
5 Infinity Stones,
yeah.
in which Thanos gives him that look of like, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Again, another thing, kind of an homage to we're getting towards something with Cap. I was not a huge Captain America fan until Infinity War. He was just kind of middle for me, because like I'm not like big, all right, soldiers and patriotism and all that. Like I love my country and all that. But that's just not like the stories that I consume typically. So. But his leadership of that team and his courage of that team was very impactful in Infinity War. So I think we'll get a lot of good Cap moments. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you really think about it, does Vision stay dead? You know, that would be terrible, but he may, because he died differently. He's not a snap. He is not an android anymore. He's not correct.
I think he's going to come back. I think because...
You think that Shuri rewrote something?
I think he wasn't going to come back until Thanos rewrote time, and so instead of him like disintegrating when she destroyed the stone got ripped out of him. So his form is still there, and whatever she did, whatever Shuri did, maybe is still intact. Whereas I don't think it would have if.
That's a good plot point payoff, that whatever Shuri was doing, that she kept saying, "I needed more time," and then when Corvus Glaive came in, she finished something.
Yeah.
And real quick and closed it. What was that?
Yeah.
So that was such a big plot point in that movie.
Yeah.
That it has to have some payoff here. Not always in movies, but this has been pretty carefully written, I think. So it has to have something. It's not just a this was the way we're going to keep Corvus Glaive not really being dead away for a little while.
And they made me love Vision and Scarlet Witch very quickly in Infinity War. And so I want more of that.
Yep.
And I want that. I mean, somehow they just made it to where those were like my favorite characters suddenly.
And again, we've got WandaVision, which is a terrible name that's been announced for the Disney Plus thing. But again, even in comics, it doesn't even have to be a prequel. They could just say, we're telling this story from the comic books with the same actors, and it's outside of continuity.
Right. And they're in their own little universe.
Yeah, they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So I would imagine WandaVision is going to be what is one of my very favorite comic runs, where Scarlet Witch and Vision are married and their family, and it's very good. So, do you think they defeat Thanos?
Yes.
Do you think we see every actor in this movie? Meaning all of the, so the people that are just Wasp, the people that are is everybody that is kind of a named person shows up. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they are involved in do we get a massive battle where all of them have been brought back to life, but Thanos is still there and they refight the Battle of Wakanda?
But with everybody this time.
Yes, with all of them.
Maybe.
Or is it, oh, look, there's T'Challa, and Chadwick Boseman's in 30 seconds of the movie because he's brought back to life, and that's it. They're not actually in the movie. They're just...
Oh, I hope not.
You think we get some type of grand thing?
I hope it's not just oh, here's everybody back, we won, and they're just chilling, and I hope we get more than that.
Yeah.
I get to actually see
I've watched Infinity War a bunch of times.
Yeah.
The thing that I hope happens relatively soon is Tom Holland, because Spider-Man has changed the MCU so much, and not having his wittiness in the fights will probably make this darker and more emotional than otherwise would have been. Because even when you watch, the fight on Titan, and when Thanos stows the moon and all of that, and it's just, even though it's dark, but Spider-Man's oh God, and he's trying to swing around and catch everybody.
I'm sorry, I don't remember everybody's names.
It's not there for the sake of humor. It's there because that's the way Peter is.
Yeah.
And I think without that, it's because none of those original Avengers are gonna be like that. You have Rocket, which I guess was probably intentional to leave some form of that.
But is he gonna be like that without all of his people?
Without Groot, I think he's gonna be pretty sad. That's gonna be an interesting character to see in this. Yeah. So, let's see. What's one other thing we could talk about? Do you think there will be any post-credit scenes? I have not been spoiled on that, so I don't know.
No, I'm gonna go with no.
I don't think there will be either. I think that the final scene will be the final scene.
Yeah.
I actually hope that. I prefer that. I don't want them to unless it's something with Stan Lee or nothing that's not part of the story, something that they filmed and they're gonna the Avengers saying thank you, or that's different. But I think I actually did not disagree with Snyder in Justice League when they asked if there was going to be a Justice League post-credit scene, and his response was, if it's good enough to film and put in the movie, then I'm going to put it in the movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be after the fact. I don't disagree with that. This post-credits thing is witty that Marvel did it, but it is not necessarily the best film mechanism either. So I kind of hope the final scene is the final scene, and that is the end of the story. I'm sure we'll wait anyway, just in case, or maybe look up real quickly, because we're probably going to be pretty emotionally beat up at the end of it. So
we did not talk about Gamora.
We did not talk about Gamora. Will Gamora come back?
She's
with
Tony.
She's with Tony.
Or she was with Tony.
Nebula.
I meant Nebula. Sorry.
Yeah, she's with Tony. She's going to be in the fight. So
I wonder if she's going to die.
She's a major, super major part of the comic story. Mm-hmm. There is zero chance. So I'm just going to say it because I don't think this is a spoiler. She is the one that actually defeats Thanos. Mm-hmm. No way. Mm-hmm. She actually gets the gauntlet from him. Mm-hmm. And she rewrites everything. Mm-hmm. No chance. That's what happens. Yeah. There may be elements about she hits him with the sword and lets something happen.
Yeah.
But while that's fine, and I like Nebula and I love her, I love the actress, she is not the character to do that.
I forgot her name.
Right, you called her Gamora.
Yeah.
It has to be Captain America or Iron Man or Thor. And really, it has to be Captain America that has the big moment. It just has to be.
Yeah.
if it's Nebula, I think people would be poo-pooing on this, and the critics are raving about it. So I don't think that's what happens. I think people be like, "Oh, that seemed unearned." You would hear the term unearned.
Yeah.
That's not her.
We don't know her as well.
That.
I do like her very much though, and especially going back through and seeing the stuff. I just rewatched Infinity War last night, and so going back through with her and her sister, I really liked it, and also the way that they did that with her like being like pulled apart a little bit. That was just really visually cool too.
Yeah, it was very good. Very good. The hot toy looks wonderful of Nebula.
Yes.
So, but we can also talk about going. So Nebula, I think, is just going to be like Rocket and War Machine. She's just going to be there.
Yeah.
She's going to be along for the ride. She's going to be kind of the intel, I would bet, because she knows him.
Yeah.
She can. This is how he would think. This is how he will react. She'll be kind of the plan maker.
Yeah.
That brings up a good point. We have Captain Marvel, right?
Oh,
so we've got what I hope is not Deus Ex Machina, the Ghost in the Machine. The solution is we just wrote her in.
Right.
I liked the movie. It was very funny. I enjoyed that movie. I liked character. I believe wholeheartedly that she and Thor are going to get sent on some type of fetch quest and take the powerful people, and they've got to go do something powerful related while everyone else is doing something else, so that she just doesn't come and blow people up. I just think that's what it's going to be. Or maybe Thanos kicks her butt real quick like he did Hulk and establishes, nope, she's not powerful enough for me with all the stones.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be a level setting.
Different types of power too. Like, what is it that Cap has that Hulk doesn't have? Like, is there a different? I don't know.
Yeah, could it be your
else.
Can it be? Yeah, well, true, because of the serum, but could it be more your character, or there's qualities that make the Infinity Stones weaken because the way they are, the way they're powered? So I think Captain Marvel will be fine. I don't think there'll be any issue with that. I just hope there's not.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see her interact, because I think it seems like they're going to pair her and Thor up, at least the way the trailer played, and that's... the Infinity War trailer held true to that. I mean, we saw Thor with the Guardians. That was their teaser, and then that really is what happened.
And that was, like, the best part.
Yes. So, other things. Do you think the popular rumor on the internet that the way to defeat Thanos is Ant-Man shrinks and goes up Thanos' butt, then makes himself big and kills Thanos? Do you think that is a popular rumor on the internet? Do you think that happens?
No. This is Disney.
Do you think Ant-Man is a pivotal character?
Yes.
So you think we think we're going quantum realm and all of that?
Look, I love Paul Rudd. I am so glad that Ant-Man has become so important, or at least I hope he's going to be.
Do you think they revisit important scenes from old movies?
That would be... I know that this is something you've talked about.
That's what I think is going to happen.
I think that would be incredible. If they can make it to where it visually looks right.
Yep.
I think that would be really cool.
My theory is, if not all the movies, many of the important scenes, whether through the quantum realm, time travel, something, they are able to go back and they have to change something. Especially the movies that involve the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Change something that makes reality shift in a way that gives them the chance to do something different. I would, dollars to donuts, we are getting back to the scene in the first Avengers where the 6 of them are fighting, and the first time you see all of them fighting together. That scene is going to be replayed. I believe that wholeheartedly. I don't have a spoiler that says that. I think that would make sense, because if I was writing this, if I was the storyteller, I would want to write a narrative that was, remember this journey you went on? Let me give you a few reminders along the way, because you'll just draw emotion out of people.
Right.
And you'll prepare them. I think it's a 3-hour movie. My guess is you've got a lot of doom and gloom, and this is what the world looks like for the first 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Plan formulation. Then the second hour is starting to do the plan, getting things together, running into complications. What's up with Big Thanos right now? And the third hour is basically you cannot look away. Like, it's just nonstop. One thing after the other. You know, I am expecting it to be slow at the beginning.
Yeah.
And build. Because I don't think you can go 3 straight hours of what I think Game of Thrones is going to do on Sunday night for an hour and a half of just hit you with it, and here we are.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Ant-Man, Captain Marvel. Gamora, about Gamora, you did bring up Gamora. Do we think she gets brought out of the soul? I don't think she's dead.
Right.
because she's trapped. She had to sacrifice for the Soul Stone. Is she there with
And
Red
like,
Skull? We've seen the child Gamora.
Yeah, the child.
We don't understand what all that is.
Yeah.
Do you think she comes back? I mean, the whole movie is about Gamora in Infinity War.
Yeah, I think she comes back.
Because if she doesn't, it has a lot of consequences for Nebula, Star-Lord. It may change who would not survive.
Yeah,
if she
that's
doesn't
a big
come back.
one, especially for the Guardians.
Do you think there is a quest to get Gamora back? Is that an actual plot point?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't.
There could be, but I mean, I don't know what the purpose of that would be.
Well, dealing with the Soul Stone, the fact that Red Skull was the one in the Soul Stone, was that just creative, or is it mean a lot more?
Yeah.
So that's.
And who even knows that though? Who knows the Red Skull?
That's
Skull
true.
was there?
Yeah, because who told them that? Whoever.
Do they know?
Yeah, I don't think they know. Well, Nebula knows where the Soul Stone was.
Yeah.
Because she's the one that had the information.
Yeah.
So they would have to just go try to see what happened there, I guess. Or get her body to bury her properly. I mean, I guess they could do something like that because she's thrown off the cliff.
Right.
Conceivably just laying there. All right. So, do you think you're going to enjoy the movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I am.
So, I think as I've watched it, Infinity War standing alone is not one of my favorite 3. It's certainly the top 5, but I don't think it's one of my favorite 3 Marvel movies. It's definitely not. Ragnarok and Black Panther themselves, as movies, as standalone experiences, are much better movies than Infinity War, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like Wonder Woman is a much better movie than Infinity War, because Infinity War is not its own story.
Right.
It is a beginning of a 2-part thing, or really of a sectional thing.
Middle, yeah.
Do you think this movie will be able to stand on its own merits, and will people say that was the best MCU movie?
I think it's still going to be the second part of a 2-part, and so I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because the best often talked about, Ragnarok is always talked about there, but like Winter Soldier is typically talked about that way. Civil War's not.
I don't think so. I don't think it
the
can
first
stand.
Avengers is kind of talked about that way.
Yeah.
Black Panther certainly. That's what I wonder if it will be. You need to watch them both, or will it be able to stand on its own merits?
Right.
That's what I don't know, and that's the difference. I mean, sometimes you get series finales that are only good because of the whole story, but there are also, like in my opinion, the Breaking Bad series finale that was also one of its very best episodes.
Yes.
Which is different for shows to go out that strong.
Yeah.
That's kind of what my question is. Will this be awesome because it's so well written and so well done, or will it be awesome because it's the end?
Right.
That's what I don't know what I think about that. I think it's probably more awesome because it's the end.
Yeah. There's just so much build.
I don't know how you can manage an intricate story with this many people. Like, that's the thing.
No, you see like the group cast photos. There's like 100 people.
Yeah, you can't give everybody everything they want. Like, if you're a gigantic Valkyrie fan, and I hope Valkyrie's in this movie, well, you're probably not getting like 45 minutes of good character building.
No. You're like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
there she is.
Yeah, you just got to be okay with it. If you're a big Okoye fan, which we both are, I mean, you're going to get a little bit of her dealing with T'Challa being dead, and then that's it. We've got to go hit things with spears. It's time to go.
Right, and you have to go about the other 15 characters we're trying to show.
So I think that's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Okoye is not doing much, if she stays in Wakanda. You know, do they stay to defend Wakanda?
Stuff,
things like that. Will M'Baku be part of the journey? He did not die.
I hope so. I love M'Baku.
M'Baku thick.
Yes.
That's the good one to end. So we're done with Before. We talked for almost 30 minutes, which is cool. So right after this clip, I'll do a transition. We're going to be back, sitting right back here. We're back from the movie, and we're going to talk about the after. What we thought about it, what happened that surprised us, what didn't happen. It will be completely, 100% full of spoilers. All spoilers. Everything that we know, we didn't know, what we liked, didn't like. So if you don't want that, do not watch that part of the video now. Do not watch it until you've seen the movie. Just don't do it. Don't do it. The spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. We are going to go get, what'd you say, you want to eat Chinese buffet?
No.
Oh.
No China.
Refried beans.
No beans of any kind.
Apparently we're just going to go have an ice cube that we place on our tongue for fear
dinner.
of digestion and get ready to go
It's a
see
long
Endgame.
movie, yeah.
Talk to you after the little bloop, bloop. Give him a bloop, bloop, bloop. And we're back. After time. Again, spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
From here on, it's going to be hardcore spoilers. So you go first. Just overall initial thoughts of the movie.
I thought it was good.
I think we start the very last question we talked about. In terms of quality of movie, does this stand on its own as one of the best 2 or 3 MCU movies, or is it only best as viewed as a pair?
I think I would have to see it again. I think it's best as viewed as a pair, though, because otherwise you would just be confused. Like, it's not, there's so much that relates back to the prior one.
Yeah, it's certainly you can't watch it standalone.
No. But I think I have to watch it again before I can answer that. Sometimes the second time through, now that you know what's going to happen, you're not so busy thinking what's going to happen. What does this mean?
That's true. We'll probably go see it again in a couple days at the beach. So we're not going to recap the whole thing. We're just going to talk about kind of some different questions because it's late. We have to get up in 5 hours. I would say I agree. I don't know. So it doesn't immediately stand out as a world-class movie.
No, but there are some great moments.
Yeah, there's some fantastic moments. So I think I'd have to do it again before judging it against some of the ones we talked about before.
Yeah.
So let's talk next about things, not necessarily deaths to things, but just things that were surprising generally about the movie.
The biggest shock to me was when they chopped off Thanos' head in 5 minutes. I was
So that was funny. So I'll say this. I feel like there was a lot of intentional fan service written into this. And maybe that's not the right word. I don't mean that in a negative connotation. But the fact that Thor chops off his head and says, I went for the head. I said it. I think I almost said it with him saying it without knowing that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
We got 3 more hours.
We know where Thanos is. Let's just go get him.
Yeah.
And they cut off the gauntlet and they cut off the head and all this stuff. That was unexpected. The beginning of the movie, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Really?
This is going to be how long? What?
And to be honest, I'm curious as to why they decided to have that and make the movie 3 hours long. The movie could have started at the scene where Captain America is in the grief counseling with people.
Yeah.
And been the same movie, I think. Basically.
Yeah. Just had Thanos.
That didn't work. Because all that happened in the first 20 minutes was that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because, we need to go back and get all the stones because he destroyed them when he used them. Mm-hmm. Well, we never knew that they didn't already just have to go back and get them all.
Right.
So I'm just curious. Yes. So much of Infinity War was setting up the quest of Thor, and this did drive Thor's quest that he was in this depression because all of this stuff. I just think that was curious. It was funny. I liked it, but it's curious in a movie that was already that long. Why was it needed?
I wonder if it was all just to get the 2 nebulas, but I guess they could have done that. I don't know.
It's just weird. It's just weird.
Know.
Yeah, I don't know that was necessary for the rest. So it kind of felt fan servicey, but I guess it's. I don't know. And I don't think we're being critical of it. It's just why was it there in a 3-hour movie? Why they had to make the choice to leave it in there and make this one of the longest movies?
Probably because of the way that it did end with Thanos.
Yeah.
They wanted to give them
they need to establish what is Thanos doing after the fact, because they never fought present Thanos again.
Right.
Technically.
He's dead.
So that's true. It kind of does answer that question.
But I was shocked. That was the most what?
That was shocking. I will say that just the fact that it was Fat Thor. You could give me 100 years to guess how will Thor be in this movie. I would have never guessed Fat Thor, Big Lebowski Thor, and I quite enjoyed it. And so first of all, there are a ton of hot toys that have to happen that I hope they reveal. So I was talking to Victoria, talking to David. They released the Captain America pre-order for Hot Toys today and said 2 mystery accessories. I figured one would be Mjolnir. We were talking earlier, and I said I don't want to ruin the thing for the comic. It was obviously Mjolnir. Cap's going to get Mjolnir. The other thing's going to be the broken shield. But there's been no Thor or Hulk Hot Toys shown at all. And I wanted her to make Fat Thor hot toy, because I need Fat Thor hot toy, and I need Professor Hulk hot toy, who's smaller than regular Hulk.
Yeah.
With the gauntlet.
Yeah.
That's a thing I need as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good figures that need to be made from this that I hope that everybody was just waiting for the first couple weeks of the movie to show. Because you couldn't have shown Thor at all in anything. Marvel Legends, nothing.
Right.
And you can't have shown really Hulk other than a pop and a suit. You can't show him with that thing. Professor Hulk was delightful and surprising that they kept him, like we said, I expected Professor Hulk, but kept him that way the whole time.
That's who he
Very
is
little
now.
Mark Ruffalo, which I don't know if he cared one way or another. I mean, he got a little bit there with the ancient or with the
ancient one.
Yeah. So those were surprising. The overall tone of the movie was surprising to me. Infinity War was so dark, and this was not. This went right back to being a typical tonal Marvel movie. Honestly, and it's because it felt like an Ant-Man movie. And it's because it was an Ant-Man movie.
Yeah.
Like, if you just withdraw all the things you know, this was an Ant-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man have been the heist movies. They were following an Ant-Man type plan. They were using Ant-Man technology. Everybody wore Ant-Man helmets. It was an Ant-Man movie. And they couldn't do anything until Ant-Man showed up. They had all given up.
Yeah.
So that's probably why the tone was that way. I don't know that I loved it. I felt the funniness could have slowed down a little bit. But it was probably good just because everybody was going in expecting this just brutal free-for-all. What did you think about the comedy and some of that?
I didn't mind it. I don't remember what it was that made everybody laugh out loud the first time. And it made everybody laugh. It was something I think Tony said.
Was it not Professor Hulk taking selfies and dabbing?
I think it was before that.
Before we even got to him?
I don't know. That was funny though. But something Tony said. I didn't mind it. I was expecting probably to have it be more kind of sad and serious. I did probably expect that. I had my tissue out from the very beginning in preparation.
Well, the very, very beginning was sad.
Yes.
When...
Oh, and I mean...
So, first of all, the trailer is, again, it's all in, like, the first 5 minutes of the movie.
That scene, but that...
Right, the scene with Rocket and Nebula, where they land back.
Yeah.
It's sad.
That was good.
We didn't talk about this in the thing, but I've talked about this somewhere with people a lot. Did we think it would be Captain Marvel? Did we think it would be Rescue that saved Tony? Well, it was Captain Marvel, and immediately. Like, that was resulted in, like, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it did give some very emotional scenes right there at the beginning.
And Tony wasn't sure she was there and that she had made it. And that was really good. And, the Natasha stuff when Cap walked in on her and she was crying.
Yes,
that was good.
Yeah, that was good at the very beginning. You almost forget about that.
Maybe that's why like the tone shifted, because it's like they've been like this for 5 years.
Yeah,
we just haven't seen the 5 years,
that's true.
So now they're getting the band back together, and the tone shifts because you can't all be like Clint and just be killing folks.
So so first of all, they absolutely went back to famous scenes through the movies. That is absolutely what the plot was.
Yeah.
And I've been saying that for a year or more, which I liked. I thought it was good. We saw the scene of the original 6 Avengers.
That was neat.
And I felt confident that we had to get back to that, and that was cool to see. That was kind of funny too, watching when Professor Hulk had to smash, and he was like, and just hit that was funny. But so the narrative, I think, was fairly similar to what we said. I don't quite remember what we said, but the first was like dealing with the aftermath, which is what they were. And then it was, here's the plan, and let's get the team together. And then it was the big battle. It did follow us pretty much that narrative.
Well, and that's what I was thinking after they killed Thanos in the beginning. I'm like, are we not going to get the big scene? We want the big fight scene.
I tell you what, so the armored Thanos, Marvel Legend, and Figure Arts, and Hot Toy have all been shown. And so they kill Thanos, and then we see him in the past, and he's in armor, and I'm like, oh my goodness, is this it? Are we only going to... Is Thanos going to be in this movie for like 5 minutes?
Right. Yeah,
because at that time you don't understand how they're going to get back to Thanos. So it was, I thought, well written that we talked about. So in the comic, Nebula wears the gauntlet herself and does it basically what Hulk does, and then later Tony does. And but they found a way to make her have weight that didn't cheat the other characters.
Right.
Having her be the doppelganger and all that stuff that led to Thanos getting over there. So let's see. Let's work our way through the major stuff. So we've talked about all the beginning stuff. Fat Thor. All right. So when they're traveling through time, before we get to the Hawkeye and Black Widow stuff, we get a lot of good moments. So you get Tony talking with his dad about kids. It was great. You see Cap, see Peggy.
Yes.
You get to see what is interesting. The cold close to the first Avengers is them holding the arrow to Loki, and he says, "I think I'll take that drink now." Right, and then they close.
Yeah,
and that's when like the next scene is them going for shawarma. So you basically see everything that happens in between that and them going for shawarma.
Yeah,
which I thought was kind of interesting because they're watching all the events of the first Avengers happen. I think 100% Loki taking the stone and teleporting out of there is setting up his TV show.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, I think that sets up his TV show, even though we're going to talk about how that doesn't necessarily mean nothing the way some of these things ended. But that sets up his TV show, I think, because they did that intentionally. And if they wanted to have Cap and Tony have to go back further to see their origins, they could have just done that to begin with.
Yeah.
They wanted, and I know they probably wanted Hiddleston to be in the movie and do a Loki thing.
Yeah.
But, so you get that, you get Cap fighting himself, which was kind of neat. But so you had those good moments, seeing Star-Lord gallivanting around was a nice little moment.
Yes.
I'm trying to think where else. Where did, Thor's seeing Jane.
And seeing his mom.
Seeing his mom.
Yeah.
That was good stuff.
Well, and Rocket being the one to, like, try to
snap him out of it.
Yeah, get through to him. And
Bradley Cooper was wonderful in this movie. Rocket was a great, great character. So that was nice. Like, that was, again, to a point, some of it's fan service. It's like, hey, remember, and I think we said that. We're going to go on a remember trail.
Yeah.
Remember all these things. Remember all your friends. So that was really nice. I enjoyed that quite a bit. And then we get to what I would say is the biggest shock of it. And we talked about, is Cap going to have to go back and replace and get the Soul Stone to get Gamora? And I don't know what we necessarily meant by that. But we get to the scene where Black Widow sacrifices herself for the Soul Stone, which I think is shocking. We did not say Black Widow would die. In fact, I think we confidently said she would not die because she supposedly has the next movie, the first movie next year after Spider-Man. So what were your thoughts on that, just scene in general, and the performances of the two actors?
Oh, well, so as you're watching the movie, I'm sure people are like, well, they're going there. One of them's going to have to sacrifice something. I didn't even think about that. I'm just watching the movie, not trying too much to think far ahead. But then when they get there and they see Red Skull,
it's an
I'm
identical scene, I believe.
Uh-huh.
I believe I bet you could sync up the music, what Red Skull says. I think it is identical. They score it the same. She looks exactly the same on the ground. But they do. You kind of forget about it.
Right, because there's so much going on. And then when I realized they're both there, I'm like, oh, dear goodness. One of them's going to have to die.
When you knew it was going to be Widow, as soon as you realized what was going to happen, I did, because she doesn't have anyone.
Right.
So, and she's the one, like, the story was told through her lens for the first hour, that this is all she's ever had, and she lost it. And so in order to regain her family, she had to die.
Right.
Whereas, and that gives him back his family.
Right.
If he dies, she might gain back part of her family, but she still loses.
Right.
So she can't let that happen.
Yeah. I did not. I thought it could be either one of them. And particularly when he started talking about who he had become.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, are they going to kill Hawkeye? And I was thinking immediately of my sister.
There was a lot of stuff that...
She's a big Hawkeye fan.
She's also a big Black Widow fan.
I know.
There's a lot of stuff that Kimberly will have a vested interest in. And I imagine has some mixed emotions in some of those.
I mean, that was tough, but I like how they did it, how it wasn't that he let her or anybody let anybody. They were both trying to save the other. They both would have willingly done it. And it was a good scene. It was very touching. I liked the way that it was done. I was shocked. My jaw was open that entire scene.
Yeah. And shocked that it
and I was
seems to be permanent. Like, we did not reclaim that later in the movie. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. But I don't think they undo it. I think her movie's going to be a prequel. And that's why it's been this untitled standalone Black Widow thing. Is maybe it's her origins or...
Right. Which would be interesting. But I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Also, her hair looked incredible.
It did. It looked
movie.
very good
with
with the two colors and the ponytail.
So
that hot
good.
toy looks excellent.
Yeah.
So I was surprised at that. The nice little twist with the Nebula stuff to get Thanos into the present battle.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to say much about that. That was just, I think that was
Mm-hmm.
well done. The writing was good on that to get him there.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they all go back. They deal with Black Widow. You know, they're sad, and then they decide they've got to just easily make a gauntlet. I didn't love. First of all, so let's start here. I love the Iron Man gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I hope they make a replica. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I am confident it'll be one of the extra accessories with the Iron Man Mark 85 hot toy. I love it. What I don't like is we had this freaking hour-long quest in Infinity War where we learned that only Eitri, whatever his name is, Tyrion Lannister, can make the gauntlet that can wield the Infinity Stone. And it's like all the... And it was kept in Odin's crypt for all this time.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
It's like so impossible to make
Yeah.
something that can wield it. And Tony can just make an Iron Man thing like in the thing.
That's true. I completely forgot about that part.
Like...
Yeah.
That seemed a little convenient.
Yeah.
Kind of Deus Ex Machina there. Like, we'll just brush that aside. I didn't love that because that Infinity Gauntlet had been a huge part of multiple movies.
Yeah.
Multiple movies.
Yeah.
And so, and even to go as far as saying, with Hela saying it's a fake. And Ragnarok, he already has it. Like, so was it important or not?
Yeah.
I know that's kind of nitpicky, but it's just, it was a huge plot point for a long time to just kind of brush it aside. But the thing looked cool when it was an Iron Man one. So they make the gauntlet. I will say the stuff with Tony early in the movie we skipped with his family was pretty good. The stuff with his daughter was wonderful. The stuff with Pepper was wonderful. But extremely disclosing that he was going to die. From the very time I saw he had a daughter, he's going to die. There is no way. Tony's finally going to sacrifice himself when he doesn't have to anymore.
Yeah.
When he has what he wants.
I did not think that.
And then I think I leaned over and said, "Oh, there's no way he doesn't die." At one point when he talked to his dad about they gave because the trouble with he and his dad is kind of his driving thing. So we skipped that part, so I want to talk about it. But so the whole thing with Hulk has to take the brunt of it because he's the only one strong enough for it not to kill. Again, super duper duper foreshadowing something in the future.
Yeah.
Hulk didn't fight. It didn't seem like in the big battle because he had his arm in a sling, like he was weakened. He couldn't get them out. He couldn't get War Machine out.
Right.
They needed Ant-Man to do it. Yeah, like Giant Man took the place of Hulk in that fight. Yeah, that's true. We'll put a pin in there and Hulk and come back to that because that's an interesting thing. And then we get basically the beginning of the very long conclusion to the saga with what starts off with the big three going to fight, and of course Thor bringing Mjolnir back.
Oh, that was great.
Which is one of the timey-wimey things. We got a lot of timey-wimey, right? A lot of timey-wimey in this. Because what about that Thor in that reality? What if he summons Mjolnir? Is it coming all the way back from the future?
Are they now sharing?
Don't know. Don't have to know, but anytime you get into time travel, you get Doctor Who timey-wimey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of the first thing is those three marching to Thanos, which is a great scene.
Yes.
And gets, at least in our theater, the first hootin' and hollering moment, which is the moment that we were talking about on the before, that I didn't want to spoil for Victoria, where Cap wields Mjolnir, which is one of the greatest moments in comic book history, and it paid it off hugely. So, I being a big Game of Thrones fan, people have heard me talk about this. The first time Daenerys rides Drogon in Game of Thrones, they had to get that scene right, because it's just so important to the character. And I think this was a similar scene. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You can't... And it can't just be he kicks his butt. Like, Cap struggles in that fight. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Because the way the scene is shot, Thanos is jamming Stormbreaker into Thor just like Thor did.
Yeah.
But you can see Thor trying to open his hand. Because he's blocking it, and he's trying to open his hand. And then they focus on Mjolnir, and you see it move. And so you think, did he get his hand open, and it's going to come knock out Thanos? But then you realize it's Cap, and it's glorious.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a glorious scene.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man just got the crap beat out of him, and that was kind of off to the side. I think, right?
He was
not doing all right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he used a weapon where Thor could charge him with lightning, and he shot it, and then that like weakened him. It seemed like.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about that scene in the Mjolnir? Like, did you know that was going to happen? I think
it's a possibility. I did not know for sure, and I loved it. I was very much like inhaling when I saw it moving because I was like, is it going to be Cap? And I loved it, and I liked that Thor's reaction was a smile, and he said, I knew it,
yeah.
Like that, yeah.
Which is great. I mean, that's a super duper payoff for years and years. I think that's Age of Ultron, where they're all trying to pick it up.
Yeah.
But then even back to I think it's the first Avengers maybe, and they're messing with him. Like, what if it's in the elevator? Is the elevator worthy?
Right.
Like, all that stuff. That's been a long since thing. Thor's got SARS virus.
I also had that at the theater, and luckily I found a cough drop very quickly in my purse.
Yeah. Yeah. There was also, like, all of a sudden some loud profanities and somebody yelling at each other.
I don't know what that was, but
yeah, I was
fearful. Very quickly, and I was
ever since the Dark Knight thing years ago, it's always when something like that happens.
It looked like there may have been staff that went down there.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I was frustrated by that. I mean, it seemed to be somebody getting in a fight with somebody else.
Yeah.
And what I think happened is people were talking in the movie and somebody told them to shut up and they're like, you're not going to talk to me like that.
Yeah.
Seemed to be what happened. It frustrated me though because it pulled me all the way out of the movie and I was really deep in it.
Yeah.
So, not as bad. We had a really bad experience with Infinity War. So not nearly as bad.
Yeah, this was just a quick 30 seconds.
Quick and then it was and we had 2 attendants in the theater the entire time to keep things under control, which was nice. I was glad they did that. So then basically we get to the grand battle. Oh, well, you get Thanos is kicking Cap's butt and the shield is broken in half. And I don't, I am curious as to the timing because both of these could have been filmed at the similar time.
Yeah.
But man, was that not Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards?
Yeah.
It was the exact
very true.
scene.
Yeah. Just him about to take on everybody.
All right, the whole army's here.
I'm gonna
let me get my weapon, and I'm going out. It's just like in 300 where Cersei. Or Lena Headey, whatever her name is, in 300, where she says, come back with your shield or on it. It was basically that scene. And Cap just picks up the broken shield and is like, I'm going to fight this entire army by myself. And no hesitation. And then you hear Falcon talking to him.
Yeah, and you're not sure who it is at first. Like, who's it going to be?
And then you get Wakanda, you get Black Panther shows up. And then it was so cool with all of the different portals opening up and everybody. And that is the iconic scene of the MCU.
Yeah.
It did not, it was wonderful. It did not, and this will probably go back to, is the standalone. Mm-hmm. It did not give me the goosebumps that Thor landing on the bridge in Ragnarok gave me.
Right.
Which I don't think anything will ever touch that.
Yeah.
My watch, when I saw that the first time, was like, your heart rate is elevated at that moment. I do not think it elicited the same response that Thor landing in Wakanda got in Infinity War, and I think that's because of the tone. Yeah. And you're expecting it.
You're
like, they're all going to show up here because they brought him back to life.
I 100% is.
But it was wonderful, 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 and is iconic. It is the scene.
It was great, and the way they did it, and the different people. Now, and so part of this, with there being such a large cast, is part of the same problem that they had kind of with Winterfell on Game of Thrones. It's just that there's so many reunions, you don't get to spend a lot of time
like we talked about,
on
you're
them.
going to get just a few seconds with everything.
And like some of these, like we didn't really see a Bucky Cap reunion. Like we didn't really see that because Bucky came through with Groot, and he didn't come through with Falcon and that crew. And so it's just there's certain things you're not going to get a big reunion. Now we did get the Tony Peter reunion, which was
they had to
wonderful.
They had to,
but
they had to give Tom Holland an opportunity to shine because he's so good.
And our theater, that was the biggest cheer.
Absolutely, Spider-Man of the whole movie. Spider-Man was the biggest cheer to come out. He's beloved, and while you may see, if you've only liked this stuff for the last 10 years since the MCU, or the last really 6 or so years, maybe since after the first Avengers. It might surprise you. Go, well, why did Spider-Man get the biggest cheer? He's just been around. It's because all of these characters were B-level characters except for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Marvel's home run hitters were Spider-Man and Wolverine, characters that they don't have access to.
Right.
And so that, the Batman and Superman of the Marvel Universe before all this were Spider-Man and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And they didn't have either one of them.
Right.
Wasn't nobody lining up to see Iron Man.
Yeah.
If you
knew who it was.
20 years ago, if you had said there was an Iron Man movie, what?
Who's that? Yeah.
So I think there's still that mass.
Right.
It's Spider-Man. We've had a whole bunch of Spider-Man movies now. We've had 3 and then 2 and then all of these.
Yeah.
And so the animated cartoon.
Yes, I watched that, and Spider-Man's my favorite because I did watch that as a kid.
It was also great that Cap said Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
Fan service, but also great. So all of them showing up, things that I'm glad happened in that I didn't talk about before because I didn't want to necessarily talk about a spoiler, so to speak. Rescue, Pepper showing up in the rescue suit. That had been leaked that she had filmed stuff in, there had been pictures of her in a green screen type suit, so we figured that was going to come. Valkyrie, who was on a poster, so we knew she was going to be in the movie. I didn't talk about that, but her riding the Valkyrie horse, wonderful, wonderful.
That was awesome.
I'm trying to think who else. Everybody showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid at the end at Tony's death, the teenager, I think is from Iron Man 3.
I had no idea who that was.
There's a boy in Iron Man 3 that he nurtures for a little while. I think that's who that kid's supposed to be.
I had no idea who that was.
I can't think. So Coulson didn't show up because Coulson's dead in that universe to them. We'll say right here before we keep going, it did seem the permadeaths were perma, and that Loki is dead in the present tense. Heimdall is dead in the present tense because he would have shown up with Asgard.
Yeah.
Vision is, I don't know if dead's the right word, but he is not functional.
Yeah, I
I don't like that. And Gamora is dead. Modern day Gamora is dead.
Yeah.
The people that did not die from the snap stayed dead.
Right.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily love it. I hope they fix Vision. But I think it's important because there needed to be some consequences from the last time. But all of them show up and you just get a big battle, which I almost thought wasn't going to be a battle. Because they just have the two things merge into each other and the Avengers theme is playing and is grand. And then you wondered if it was going to be like an explosion and they were just going to cut to the end.
Oh, yeah.
Because you knew you were getting to the end of the movie. But that was good, and it gave you a lot of moments with the other people.
Yeah. Yeah, the people that have been missing that didn't get a whole lot of screen time, and it was good to have them come back. I love Ant-Man having to save the day repeatedly. I just love that.
Well, and you had the little callbacks like Wasp listening to Captain America because there was the whole scene of Civil War and like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, she's mad at him. Why did you go over there to help it and all this stuff? So those were nice. You have the scene from Wonder Woman where they have the mother box that they're trying to keep away from Steppenwolf and they're playing hot potato with it.
Yes.
You have that same basic scene.
Yes.
Like a pig in a blanket. I don't know what's that game called, but that was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I didn't love that because it felt a little silly.
Yeah.
Like we've come this far, we've gone time travel and a hot potato with the gauntlet. Yeah. But I understand why it's there. It was a plot mechanism to give you a little bit of time with each of these big characters.
Right.
Because only like the bigger characters that we spent a lot of time with or had a feature role in their movie got it in that. So, I mean, you didn't love it. But it gets to the point where you get the scene that was wonderful where Spider-Man is just beat to crap. And he has the gauntlet, and Captain Marvel finally shows up, which we talked about this before. It was not Deus Ex Machina. It was wonderful. I thought she and Thor would be off on a thing, but they basically just wrote her out.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to go check on all the other universes, and I'll be back in 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Which
was good. So even though she played a relatively major role at the end, she was not in the movie very much.
Right.
So, and again, this is no slight to her. I actually thought she was great in the movie. I liked Captain Marvel. But, and she was great in this, but it would be unearned. It would be the unearned thing that we talked about.
It needed to be about the characters we've been with for 20 years.
So I'll let you talk about that scene. I mean, so they have the homage, which I remember reading, the homage to where Proxima looks at Scarlet Witch and says, "You'll die alone," and then Okoye and Black Widow say she's not alone.
Yeah.
And I remember there was some criticism of Marvel on that, going, "Well, that's because there's only 3 females you got, and you have this great comic lore. Why don't you do a little more with it?" So I think that was their own nod to the commentary about that, even though I think these were filmed concurrently, so this may have already been filmed, but so much of this is CG, they could have changed it whenever.
Yeah.
But what did you think about what I thought was a wonderful scene?
Yeah. I did. I enjoyed that very much, with just all the women
all
coming together.
The big bad women.
Yeah. Just coming together to just charge forward, protect each other. I loved that. And I loved it in the first one too. I loved it when the three girls were fighting. I thought that was great that they all kind of had each other's backs, and I thought it was great. I mean, anything like this, everything having to do with Scarlet Witch was wonderful. All of her and what I like too is some of those actors are my very favorite. I really love. I mean, obviously, I think you all know I love Evangeline Lilly. So to give her a big moment, she's not been with the Avengers yet, right?
Tessa Thompson's fantastic. To give her important stuff, I just thought it was great. I mean, so who all was in that? You Captain Marvel, Shuri, Okoye, Scarlet Witch,
Wasp,
Valkyrie, Wasp. Seems like there was more. Big Worm, Big Perm.
Pepper.
Oh, Pepper is Rescue. Oh, I love that so much. That suit's beautiful. I hope they make that. A die-cast rescue suit. And it was interesting that Rhodey was in the Iron Patriot suit and not the War Machine suit. It's interesting for people that are following figures on my channel, because they released the War Machine Mark IV on Hot Toys, which is the slender one he wears for most of the movie.
Okay.
But then we thought there was an accidental Lego tease of a War Machine Hulkbuster, because there is a thing that looks like a War Machine Hulkbuster on Lego, but that actually seems to be this bulky Iron Patriot suit he's wearing at the end. It's a different suit. So it's almost like an Iron Patriot Mark II is maybe what we're going to get. But I like that suit. I think it looked cool.
Yeah.
That Rhodey had on. So that scene was very cool. They just went and laid waste to everything. And then what I think is my personal favorite scene of the show is... So what's happening? I don't know. Thanos has just kicked everybody's butt. And when Scarlet Witch shows up and her eyes are glowing red, and she says, "You took everything from me." And he says, "I don't even know who you are."
Yeah.
And she says, "You will."
Yeah.
And she whips him.
Yeah.
She absolutely whips him. Again, big Scarlet Witch fan, big Scarlet Witch Vision fan. Scarlet Witch has lost a ton in this. And I'm glad they did the scene with her and Hawkeye at the end. Yeah. Because you forget about some of the stuff that she's been through. But I love that scene.
Yeah, I did too.
I love that scene.
She was great. And also, visually, I liked that. Like, I like magic things. And so her stuff, and then, like, Doctor Strange's stuff, anytime that they're fighting using the magic, I just find it so cool. Because then they're using all the debris and everything and sending it all these different places. And I just love that kind of stuff visually.
Very good.
Reminds me of Harry Potter, so I like it.
I can only imagine how many CG people worked on this. Hundreds of people.
Yeah.
I remember looking at the credits of Infinity War, and there was like a CG team just for Thanos. That was like 80 people just for Thanos.
My goodness.
Because they break that stuff up. Yeah. Because they need it all run concurrently, so they can't just have one studio moving one to one. It takes 6 years to make the movie. So, and then we get to kind of the major climax of the movie. Captain Marvel is trying to get the gauntlet away from Thanos. Has got the gauntlet. He has it on. They're trying to get it off. They're trying to get it off. Captain Marvel looks like she's going to be able to get it off. She shows that she's powerful enough to. He takes out the stone and blasts her with it. And so now he's got it and he's about to snap. My interpretation is this is why it was important that for the last 2 movies we've learned about nanotech armor from Tony, and that it works differently than pieces, because Tony, by grabbing the gauntlet, seems to transfer it onto his hand and leave him with an empty one. Because if you remember... I
didn't pick up on that.
Well, you remember he's holding it, he's going to snap, and Tony tries to grab it, and he knocks him off and snaps anyway. And he never took it off.
Right.
But we've seen over and over again how Tony can just make stuff materialize on him. And so my interpretation is he switched it. By touching him, he can switch the nanotech onto him.
I had no idea how he got it. I just thought he really quickly, like, just...
So I
didn't know how he did it.
Even though we've seen, like, for an hour across these two movies, somebody trying to take it off, and he just did the old...
I thought he was just taking out just the stones, not the gauntlet. He was just getting...
Oh, he just individually got all the stones?
He was just, like, holding his hand.
My interpretation is he switched them somehow.
I mean, that makes more sense.
It doesn't matter. They don't have to explain. It's another one of those things that matter.
It does make sense, though, because I noticed when I was watching Infinity War, he was taking off his sunglasses.
Yeah.
And his suit came on, and it's like the sunglasses disappeared some kind of way. So I guess it goes back to that.
And I don't remember the order, if it's before... I think it's before he gets the gauntlet. He looks at Doctor Strange.
Yeah. And Doctor
Strange has one.
Yeah. I had no idea what that meant.
So my interpretation... So, because you had the scene when they're reunited, and he says, I hope this was the one.
Oh, he's just saying this is the one.
And Doctor Strange says, I can't... If I tell you what happens, it won't happen.
Yeah, right.
And I feel like he's looking at him and saying, this is the one. Like, begging to say, yes,
this is the
you
time.
have to die.
So, it's a good thing I am not Iron Man, because when he did that, I thought he meant, like, just get the finger of Thanos off and you'll win. I don't know.
The old finger of doom.
Just the one.
But that was my interpretation, because I remember when we talked about Infinity War, I don't think this is on camera anywhere, but you go, okay, so if Doctor Strange knew from earlier in the movie that there was only one way that they could win, and it wasn't the way that they were about to do on Titan.
Right.
Why did he go through the trouble of fighting him and casting all these spells and doing stuff if he knew it was going to work? And I remember thinking he needed to show Tony that he could make Thanos bleed or something.
Right.
It was important to Tony.
Right.
That's why he had to save Tony's life. Because Tony said, why did you do that?
Oh, yeah, right.
So it all ties together.
It does, yeah.
And that's so he was telling him, yeah, it's what you think it is. That's the way to do it. And so Tony snaps his fingers. We're assuming he just got rid of all of the Thanos army. I think the way that the Infinity Stones work is if you think it, you can make it happen. Because Banner talks about he was trying to bring back Natasha. We don't know if Gamora disappeared in that, if she died in that, the past Gamora,
right? Or
if she's lost because in the ending scene the Guardians are looking for her. Or Peter is at least looking for her. But then you get Tony's death scene. Oh, and him saying, Thanos saying, "I am inevitable," and Tony saying, "I am Iron Man," is the bookends of this world. Because the very end of the first Iron Man is him revealing that he's not going to keep it a secret identity. I don't even know if you remember this.
I do not.
So he goes through all of it, and he comes back, and now it's Stark Industries. He's having this press conference about weapons, and he's supposed to say, "Oh, we're going to do this and this and this," and he just goes, "I am Iron Man," and it cuts to black, and that's how him revealing. Oh. So it's the bookend of. Yeah. So if this was if this became a trade paperback, it would probably be called the Tony Stark saga. Right. Because that's what it really is.
Right.
Now, with the totality of it. Not the Infinity Saga. It is the saga of Tony Stark.
Right.
And so we get, the death that I think we thought, we said either Cap or he. Cap felt like the right one, but Tony's always tried to sacrifice those. He does.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was some thank you to Robert Downey. I thought he got a very good death, and Robert Downey's meant a lot to us as nerds. And this has meant a lot to him. He was in a bad place in this. So what did you think about the Iron Man death?
I thought it was good. It was sad. Having all the way that he said goodbye to the people was really meaningful, and having Peter come up to him and so it was three, right? It was like
Rhodey, his best friend,
and then Peter,
and then Pepper almost being motherly with Peter and saying it's okay, and not like pushing him out of the way to talk to her husband, but trying to add some maturity, I guess.
Well, and her telling
he could rest
Tony
now,
that he could
tied
rest,
back.
and that they were going to be okay.
Pepper was great.
She was, and it wasn't like, oh no, don't die. What are we going to do without you? Like, it was a nice.
I knew this was always coming.
Yeah.
It was the hero's journey, right? The hero's journey always has to end. So
it was good. It was sad. It was good, though.
It was good. It was not nearly as shocking as Black Widow.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it was necessarily super duper like tear inducing, because you're kind of thinking it's coming. It depends on how much you like Iron Man, I guess. Which I like Iron Man quite a bit, but I don't necessarily like him in the MCU as much as some other characters. And then that's it. I mean, then you get the funeral scene, which is very well done. And they do a good job of focusing on the groups to show you the groups that are all back together.
Yeah.
And then you get that kid who I think is from Iron Man 3. And then you kind of do your takeaways, your stuff for potential future movies or whatever. Very glad that they have Hawkeye, who's lost, Black Widow talking to Scarlet Witch again, because they are so tied together, and people forget that in Age of Ultron, the only reason Hawkeye is alive is because her twin died to save him. Because Quicksilver dies saving Hawkeye. And, you know, there was and he was the only one that she did not brain control in that movie, and he had to that's how we meet his family to begin with. So they have a very big tie. So that was nice. I thought that was a good scene. I believe your favorite ending scene was the Asgardians of the Galaxy.
That I want that to be a film.
It's a comic right now.
It was hysterical, and because I love those guys together. They act so well. The Chris's act very well. All the Chris's, but those two particular, Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pratt, are very, very funny together, and it was just great. They have a great all that cast. Guardians is funny, but adding him in too just adds another layer of humor and stuff that they can do that's very creative and cool, and I enjoyed it.
So when we talk about the original 6, Hawkeye we think has a limited series.
Yeah.
On the Disney show.
Yeah.
It does not strike me. I mean, his door is open if they want to do a Hawkeye movie. Yeah. If Renner wants to. I could see him crossing over into the Scarlet Witch Vision show. So but I don't know if that's going to be a prequel, because Vision is nowhere to be found.
Right.
You've got Downey is obviously done. So Hemsworth. So we'll get to Ruffalo and Evans. So Hemsworth, because I remember Hemsworth saying he would be open to doing Thor 4 if Taika Waititi was going to direct it, but Taika's not. And so I don't think there is a Thor 4. If it is, it's going to be Valkyrie, because they and I remember, I think we talked after Ragnarok, Jane becomes Thor for a while in the comics, and I think they set that up for Valkyrie to potentially be Thor, which is good. I like Tessa Thompson, but they also just did not give you any illusion that there'd be a movie about that.
Right.
That could just be the ending.
Right.
Thor goes with the Guardians. The Guardians are obviously looking for Gamora. They 100% set that up.
Yeah.
For Guardians 3, which we know is a thing. And it's basically sitting there where if they want to put Hemsworth in it and he wants to do it, they can do it.
Yeah.
Or they can just not.
Yeah.
Because it could be far enough in the future that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's gone back to Earth.
Fat Thor. Still Fat Thor. Fat Thor in the armor. Wielding Stormbreaker and Mjolnir.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so when he did the lightning and put on his armor, I'm like, okay, he was able to, like, not be fat anymore.
Right.
That's what I thought, surely.
Right. The lightning power made him
Fat
lose weight.
Thor. I wish I had a bodysuit like that I could just whip out, take off. So, Hemsworth seems probably a likely candidate to still be around, at least for a Guardians movie. And then we get to the very final scene, which is with Falcon, Bucky, Hulk, and Cap.
Mm-hmm.
And Cap has to return the Infinity Stones to not mess up the timeline. And Cap disappears, and he doesn't come back right away. And Victoria had a very good point. What was your theory?
I thought Black Widow was going to return. I thought he was going to go and take her place somehow, and that she was going to return instead of him. Which
I had, because that had been so long, I didn't even think of. But we had the theory that somehow he could, because Red Skull was there, he could go there. If he goes there with the Soul Stone to Red Skull, maybe he can trade.
Yeah.
That would have been good, because we know there's a Black Widow movie, so very confused about that. But instead what he does is, it seems to be, he delivers back the stones in Peggy's time last, and he goes back and lives a life with Peggy.
Yeah.
And so he's come back, but he's come back and he's an old man. And he's basically dying. He's almost dead. Which was also, I think, a pretty fitting end for Chris Evans' turn here with us, another big time hero of our nerddom. I thought it was neat that because the ongoing thing since Evans has said he wasn't coming back
Mm-hmm.
was which one would be Captain America. Because
Mm-hmm.
both Falcon and Bucky have been Captain America in the comics. And it was nice to me that it was almost as if Bucky and Cap had already talked about this.
Yeah.
Because he comes back and Bucky's like, go.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
talk to him. Like, he knows
Yeah.
what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Which is good. So there's not animosity. It
That's
doesn't
true.
bring
And there
drama.
was more like Bucky's goodbye to him before he left was a little more like
real goodbye.
Yeah. It was like yeah, thinking about it, it don't
Everything's going to be
seem
all
like
right.
he knew what was about to happen.
Yeah, I read that as Bucky knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to be there for Sam.
Yeah.
You know, because now we got those two that are going to be in the show together.
Yeah.
Which is maybe is going to be the tales of Sam, Captain America.
As Cap, yeah.
So Evans is definitely done, I think. And you got Ruffalo that's just unknown.
Yeah.
Because we don't go back to Hulk in
Right.
that scene. That's the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so he certainly could come back, but with who? Because he's kind of stuck in Professor Hulk. He's hurt. His arm is messed up. Which may be in and of itself. There's not why have him?
Yeah.
But when you take away the quote unquote New York Avengers, none of them are there anymore.
Yeah.
Who would bring him back?
Right.
Unless he's in a movie with Hawkeye, I guess. So I have a feeling Ruffalo is probably done too.
Yeah.
That we had this turn, and we talked about the Hulk movie. We got Professor Hulk. We got exactly where he's he gets to do all the things he never got to do. All right. So final thoughts. Anything else to say on our before and after?
Ooh. Oh, I did like very much that they did not leave it open for where Cap went. Because for a second I thought they were going to leave it open.
He just not come back and they cut?
Because he said, well, or because when Falcon asked him about his ring.
Oh, I'm saying,
and he was like, I'm not
going
to say. Yeah, I thought that was going to be it. And you were just going to kind of assume it was Peggy, but was it or wasn't it? And so I'm glad they showed them dancing.
That's important. The Cat Peggy dynamic was important to have resolution too.
I will say all of that kind of stuff leads me to a timey-wimey thing. But that's just because I'm used to the way most movies do the time travel, which is it always happened. So like in Harry Potter, whatever they did always happened. And so it's just, Hermione's over there because she throws the thing. And so whatever they did like it always happened. Whereas this is like, it doesn't matter that we already know that Peggy got married and had a kid and that you kissed her grandchild.
Right.
None of that matters because now really you got married to her.
Right.
So it's like,
it's a little different.
It's just a different, alt reality. I don't know.
So overall, I think it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it told the story it needed to tell. I think there are challenges. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect movie. But I stayed in it the whole time except for when the guy was cussing. Yeah. I didn't feel like I wasn't there. And it was rewarding. Yeah. It felt rewarding. I felt rewarded for giving the time to this franchise. And it felt like an ending. There was no post-credits, anything.
Yeah.
It felt like this is it.
And the credits were good.
Yeah, the credits were beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful that they gave everybody a full screen credit.
Yeah. And then they
paused, and they still get a full screen credit, but they let them sign it. Yeah,
I like that very much.
Beautiful because thank you to those people.
Yeah.
And all the people. I mean, we have friends that have worked on this franchise, literally.
Yeah.
That have created this for us to do because it'll
awesome.
Never be replicated. I don't think. So this is a big weekend. We had Endgame, and then we've got Game of Thrones, The Battle for Winterfell. We don't want to spoil anything on that. But I think I will say, in terms of emotion, this movie was not nearly as emotional as I'm anticipating Sunday being in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Do you
I think
agree
there
with
were
that?
there were also like, this is Disney versus Game of Thrones. And this had more like happy endings. Of course, not everybody got a happy ending. But even Cap, for us, he's gone, which is sad. Like, he's not gone, but he had a happy ending. And I'm happy for him. I'm glad that that's, what worked out for him. And so this had, most people got a happy ending. And not everybody. I still think Vision's coming back. But I don't think that's what Winterfell's going to be.
I don't think
so.
So the person that had the biggest episode in the most recent episode that character in Game of Thrones, because I don't want to spoil it, but the episode is named
Yes,
after
yes,
this person.
yes.
If they die, I can't think of anyone dying in tonight's movie that will make me feel the way that one does.
No.
And that character is not a major character of the show.
Right.
And so I just think it's a dent. What we talked about before, we spent so much time that even the B characters in Game of Thrones may as well have had their own 4 or 5 movies.
Well, and that's the thing, is that in a movie like this, even for the people, now I haven't seen probably all the Iron Man movies. I haven't seen probably all the movies within the Marvel. I've seen most, but not all. The B characters, you may not have really seen them for more than
just a little tiny
20, 30 minutes total over all of these films. And so for them to die or whatever, it wouldn't have been quite as meaningful as these people on Thrones, where there are whole episodes that are about these side characters that you get 30 minutes just of them in that one episode, because it's just kind of their story. So yeah, it absolutely, I feel that it has a lot of potential for.
And I'm kind of glad that this one didn't gut us.
No, I am too.
Again, the Black Widow was surprising. Tony was expected, but that's it. There wasn't.
Black Widow was the saddest for me, honestly. It was the saddest. I was sad that she wasn't in then she didn't get to be a part of that awesome female scene. It's like, man,
yeah.
I would have liked for her to be a part of that, because she's been, she was the only.
She's the only one forever.
She was the only one forever, and I love her. I find her so interesting. So that I was disappointed in that. It was shocking to me. I did not expect. I thought, who did I say I thought was going to die? Cap? I don't know. I didn't think it was going to be her.
Yeah.
So that was sad. But yeah, Sunday's going to be rough.
It'll be rough. So I hope you all enjoy this. It's long. It's going to be half the length of the whole movie, but there's a lot to talk about. So as you're watching this, we're probably headed to Myrtle Beach for vacation. And hopefully, if you've watched this, surely you've already seen Endgame,
Hope so.
Or at least if you're watching us say this right now, you've seen it. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure why you'd watch this. Maybe you just don't care about it, but you're interested in us talking. And so, yay, give them a squeeze it. Let's go to bed.
Squeeze it.
Hey.